Oopsie, sorry. This is totally new to me, so here we go. I'm going to try and show you a little bit of a video today. In light of the fact that we're not supposed to gather together for a while, I still wanted to be able to show you a card that you can make if you have the pieces to make it. So this is the card I'm going to show you today. It is made using Whisper White, thick and regular cardstock, and the Designer Series background paper here is from the Woven Threads Designer Series paper that is in the main catalog. And the stamp set we're using today is To a Wild Rose, and it comes with wild rose dies, and it's a bundle available. And the sentiment comes from Lovely is the Day stamp set. The colors I'm using today are Blueberry Bushel and Seaside Spray for the flowers in the background. And the leaves are done with Old Olive just stamped off. So one color for the leaves. So let me show you, and I've got a little trick for you about how to use these heirloom dies and embossing folders as well. So let me get started. First thing you're going to do is cut your 5.5 by 4.25, and actually it's 8.5 by 5.5 to make your base card out of the Whisper White thick. Then I cut this Woven Threads DSP 4 by 5.25, and that'll go on the front with snail or tombow, whatever you're using. So let's do that. I put a little in the middle, and put that on there like that. Okay, then we're going to set that aside for a while. Next, we're going to stamp the flowers. And something I want to tell you here, we've got 3 different, make sure they're in the picture, there we go, 3 different layers for the flowers. Now you can do this with your Stamp-A-Majig. I just prefer to do it this way. It's just, for me, it's just easier. And what I did is I laid down each one of these face down and lined them all up before I started, and put a piece of washi tape right there on the back, so it shows what the top is for each one. You can see it here. And that's going to be the top each time I stamp. So I'll be able to line it up perfectly. I start with the outline, because once you have the outline, it's easier, much easier, defined to line up the other 2 pieces. So we're going to start with that, and that's going to be full strength Blueberry Bushel. Just like that. Then we're going to take this one, which is the full background. It's got just a little bit of texture in there, and we're going to do that with Seaside Spray. I've got my little thing that shows me where the top is, and I'm going to ink that up. And then I want it just a little bit softer, so I'm going to stamp it off, and then I'm going to stamp it onto the card, lining it up, just like that. There's step 2. Then step 3 is your accent piece, and again, I'm making sure I have this at the top. And this time I'm going to do Seaside Spray, but I'm going to do it full strength. Just like that. Isn't that beautiful? Ah, I love it. Then I'm going to do the Old Olive. And again, this is for the leaves. And again, I'm going to start with the outline stamp, because it makes it much easier to line it up. And the outline is going to be full strength. And I want 2 sets of leaves, so I'm going to do 2, like that. Then I'm going to take the second one, and I just picked, there's 2 more stamps for the leaves. I just picked the one that I felt had the best detail for the background, and stamped it, and then stamped it off. And this one's not hard to line up at all. I'm going to stick my head in here because I got to be able to see it. There we go. Not so bad, huh? Stamp it off. And do it. So there you go. There's the flower and the leaves ready to go. And then you're going to use the dies from the Wild Rose dies set. Here they are, the leaf and the flower. And you're going to cut those out on the Big Shot. I've already done that. So I have my flower and my leaves. Okay. We'll set those aside for a moment because we don't need them right now. And I can close up the Seaside Spray. We're done with it. Let's get that out of the way, and I can close up the Old Olive and get that out of the way. Okay, now we are going to use the Heirloom dies. And there's two of them. One is an oval and the other is a rectangle. And I placed them, I cut a piece of cardstock, standard size, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I cut it out from that, just like that. Okay. Can you see that? Okay, let me push it up just a little bit. There we go. So there you go. And the reason I centered it on there is because now I can take this and I can use it as a frame for something if I want to. I can lift it up and put a scene behind it. First thing that came to my mind was the Mountaineer stamp set, putting a lovely mountain scene behind there and creating a frame for it. But we'll set that aside for now because we're not going to be using it. This is the two pieces we're going to be using right here. And this one we're going to emboss. And we're going to emboss it using the Heirloom dies. And you can see what I have here, and this is the trick I was going to share with you. It is really difficult to line this up in this without something to help. So what I did is I cut the whole thing out of a different color, and I put some temporary adhesive on the back of the oval that comes out of the middle. And I stuck that right here in the center of this die. And it's there with temporary tape, so it'll stay, but you can take it out if you have to. It's not going to hurt anything. Then, when you get ready to line this up, you can do this. And all you've got to do is hold it so you can see that oval, you can turn it over and open it up even, and see that your oval's perfectly centered, just like that. Close it up and run it through, which I've already done. And here it is, and it's perfect every time. You do this with both your rectangle and your oval, and leave that piece in there permanently. I used the colored paper because typically I'm doing these out of white, but that's, you know, totally up to you. But that is the trick that you want to make those things work and get them lined up perfectly every time. Very excited about that. Then I'm going to take this oval that came out of the middle, and I'm going to use my brush, and I'm going to just lightly color that oval using my brush. Just like that. That's all there needs. And then I'm going to stamp the sentiment, and this sentiment came out of Lovely is the Day stamp set. Lovely is the day that is touched with kindness. What a neat saying. And I'm going to stamp it kind of down and to the left of that oval so that I can have room for my flowers when I start building my card. And there it is. And that can get set aside for a moment. Let's get this ink pad out of the way. So now we can bring this back in, and we're going to start by attaching this oval. And I'm going to do that with dimensionals. So I'm going to just put a bunch of dimensionals around the edges. That looks like enough. And we'll take those little things off there. I just trimmed my fingernails, so that's kind of a challenge sometimes. People use their pokey tools or their whatever you call them. And that works pretty good most of the time, but again, I'm just doing it this way. And get that last one off there. Okay, and now I'm going to center this on the front of my card. Just like that. I'm happy with that. Then I'm going to take the sentiment, and I'm going to put snail or tombow or whatever you want to call it on the back of that. And I'm going to put that in there and center it in there. And press it down. So there's that. Now it's just a matter of building the flower and attaching it, and our card is going to be done. So what I did with the flower is I started with glue dots, those little tiny things, and I put one on the front of each stem on my leaves. I hope I lost my glue dot. It went somewhere. Okay. Kind of decide on where I'm going to put my flower, and then that'll determine where I'm going to put my leaf. So there's one, and I go back for another glue dot because I lost one somewhere. It'll show up stuck to me somewhere. And I think I'm going to put this one kind of like this, so it kind of frames the frame. Like that. Oh, I like that. Now I'm just going to use snail. I've already popped up the frame. That's going to, there's that glue dot. There it was. So I'm just going to use snail, and I'm going to just kind of figure out, I need some on the back of each of those leaves and a little bit on the flower there. And I'm just going to do that. You probably can't see it, but anyway, a little bit of Tombow on the back of those, and attach that to the front of my card. This one, I think this needs a little more support, and I think a mini glue dot behind that's going to be the best thing to do. So I'm just going to put a little mini glue dot right on the tip of that leaf, just to make sure it stays in place and doesn't run around too much. And there's the finished card. So I hope you enjoyed the video today. And I hope that if you don't have those wonderful heirloom frames and dies, that you'll consider buying them from me. Thank you very much.